Good morning, people of the Most High. I'm coming to you this morning with another cup of morning motivation. God really dealt with me this morning about telling you all to block out the noise. In the midst of this pandemic, in the midst of all that is going on around us, everybody seems to have an opinion, especially an opinion when it comes to the things regarding the affairs of your life. When is the last time that you totally blocked out what everybody else was saying and simply reflected upon the last thing that God has told you? Yes, it is okay to tell people no. It is okay to tell people, let me pray about it. It is okay to seek God regarding the things of your life. In actuality, that's what we should have been doing anyway. Everybody has an opinion whether to wear a mask, whether not to wear a mask. Is it safe to go here? Is it safe to go there? Is it safe to start a business? Is it safe to start this or do that? And you'll begin to listen at what everybody else is saying and find yourself in a tailspin simply because you have not seek or sought the Lord regarding the affairs of your life. There's a biblical account in the book of Nehemiah where Nehemiah received a burden to go and repair the walls of Jerusalem. And when Nehemiah surveyed the walls, he could have easily gotten discouraged, but he reflected back on what God had purposed in his heart. What Nehemiah was about to do would have a ripple effect on an entire nation. The same with us. Anytime we purpose in our heart to do something for God, anytime we purpose in our heart to be obedient in the things of God, the enemy will always rear its ugly head. In the case of Nehemiah, you had people who'd been living in the country the entire time, living within the walls that have been torn down, that have been breached, that have been burned, and these same people were coming against Nehemiah with opinions that did not line up with the word of God. Nehemiah, in the second chapter, in the 17th verse, said this. He said, "Then I said to them, you see the distress that we are in, how Jerusalem lies waste, and its gates are burned with fire. Come, and let us build a wall of Jerusalem, that we may no longer be a reproach." It's amazing and it's funny at the same time that as long as you're on the same level with people, then people are okay with you. But when God purposes in your heart to move to another level, then people automatically have a problem with it. Nehemiah was seeking to take the whole nation to another level by securing its walls, and some of the people that should have been very supportive of Nehemiah was coming against him with accusations, and they were essentially poisoning the move by negative perceptions. What Nehemiah was about to do would not only change the entire image of a nation, but it would do something that perhaps hadn't been done in quite some while. You may wonder why the enemy fights you so much in your mind, why the enemy comes against you with negativity, why the enemy sends people your way to discourage you from doing things that you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that God has called you to do. It is simply because the enemy knows that the effect of what you're about to do will not only impact you, but it will impact many, many people around you. And in essence, it will change the lives of people that are connected with you. Truth be told, Truth be told, the enemy knows what's on the inside of you. The enemy knows what God has promised you. The enemy knows the promises that God has over your life. And it is his job to distract you. It is his job to steer your focus. It is his job to send people to sow seeds of doubt in your life. But I ask you the question this morning, what's the last thing that God has said to you? And if God has said it, then that settles it. I don't care how unattainable people say your goals are. I don't care how inadequate people say you are to fulfilling the promises that God has placed over your life, regardless of what people have said. God has promised us in his word that with him all things are possible. Here it is. We go back and we reflect upon Nehemiah. And there were some people that came against him, but Nehemiah said, I will not come down off the wall. Nehemiah realized and recognized the importance of what God had purposed in his heart. People of God, we must realize We must connect the dots on how important this matter is, the things that God has set our hands to, the visions, the dreams, the purposes, the destiny that God has placed on the inside of us is too important to allow negative opinions, to allow negative perceptions, even negative self-perceptions. Because we got to address our own self-image. In order for us to totally walk in the purposes and the plans of God, we must see ourselves the same way that God sees us. Yes, Deuteronomy declares that we are the head and not the tail. We are above and not beneath. Yes, we can do all things through Christ, which strengthens us. And with God, we are more than conquerors. So here it is, people making negative comments saying, Nehemiah, if a little fox runs across the wall, then that whole wall is going to fall. The devil is a liar. We thank God for strength for the work. We thank God for encouraging us. David encouraged himself in the Lord. When David saw the whole city being burned to the ground, David sought the Lord. If you doubt what God has told you, seek God on what he's already said. God will confirm his word to you. Seek God and not people, because people only love you to the point to where you're beneficial to them. And people only love you as long as you're beneath them. And when God begins to raise you up, when God puts a burden on you to perform a work, and you begin to outpace the people who've been comfortable in your small circle, then people are going to have an issue. They're going to begin to speak against the work. They're going to begin to sow seeds of doubt in your life. But Nehemiah did not allow the perceptions. Nehemiah did not allow the words of people. Nehemiah did not allow his own self to stand in the way of what God had purposed in his life. Just like Nehemiah, we must simply block out the noise. Turn off the news. Turn off the news. Get off Facebook and Twitter. Quit listening to other people and set yourself in alignment with the Word of God. Hear what it is He's saying and simply obey His word. There's safety. There's safety in the purposes and the plans of God. But it is very difficult for us to walk in a place of peace, in a place of victory, and in a place of safety when we are listening at all the talking heads. There's safety in the will of God. Listen, Nehemiah looked at the wall in its current state, and he could have gotten discouraged. He could have quit the move. He could have quit the work. He could have abandoned the promises of God before he even started. It is not what it looks like. All right? God is giving strength. God is causing people to come into your life to shift you from a place of fear, from a place of doubt, to realizing the purposes and the plans and them coming into manifestation. Nehemiah finished the wall in 52 days. What looked like it would take years and years to complete, Nehemiah did it in 52 days. Why? He believed the report of the Lord. He did not listen to people, and he did not allow fear and doubt to permeate what God was doing in his life. Will we block out the noise? When we block out the noise, there'll be more peace. We will walk in the peace. God said he'll keep us in perfect peace with a mind stayed on him, who trust in him. Will you trust God today? Will you trust him with your dreams? Will you trust him with your aspirations? Will you trust him with your goals? Will you trust him with your mind? Because a lot of us have been absent of peace because we've been too busy listening at what everybody else is saying, and we totally ignored the voice of God. Will you block out the noise? Will you set yourself in a quiet place? Begin to worship God and begin to allow him to speak to you regarding all the questions that you have. Will you allow him to speak to you regarding all the things that the enemy, all the seeds the enemy has been planting in your mind? Will you allow God to minister to your heart and to your spirit? Pull those bad seeds up and allow his purposes and his plans to prevail in your life. block out the noise. You'll realize that there's more peace, there's more safety, and your sanity is found in the presence of worship, in the presence of praise, and allowing God to minister to your heart and to your spirit. Only block out the noise. Only block out the noise. Only block out the noise. Be blessed.